Some nights change history without anyone realizing it. In the moment, no headlines, no warning, just silence, darkness, and the kind of fear that doesn't fade with time. August 12, 1967 was one of those nights. And now, nearly 6 decades later, that night is being brought back to life in a way that feels disturbingly close to the truth. When I first heard about Grizzly Night, I expected another generic animal horror movie. Loud noises, cheap scares, and a wild creature turned into a monster for entertainment. But the more I looked into it, the clearer it became that this story isn't about spectacle. It's about a moment when nature reminded humanity who was really in control. On that night in Glacier National Park, something almost unimaginable happened. 2 fatal grizzly bear attacks occurred just 9 miles apart. Same night, same wilderness. 2 young women, both 19 years old, lost their lives in separate incidents. It wasn't just tragic, it was unprecedented. These were the first fatal bear attacks in the park's history, and they shattered the illusion that national parks were safe, controlled environments. Grizzly Night is built on that reality. Not loosely inspired, not exaggerated for effect. The film is rooted in documented events that permanently altered how the United States viewed wildlife, conservation, and human presence in protected lands. The story follows a young, inexperienced park ranger thrust into the worst night of her life. As panic spreads through the park and communication systems fail, she's forced to guide a group of terrified strangers through darkness, uncertainty, and an unseen predator. What begins as a calm summer evening slowly mutates into a fight for survival, not just against the wilderness, but against fear itself. That psychological angle is what immediately caught my attention. This isn't about running faster than a bear. It's about decision-making under pressure, responsibility without preparation, and the weight of knowing that one wrong call can cost lives. The film is directed by Burke Duran, making his feature-length directorial debut after years working behind the camera. And that background matters. Duran didn't approach this like a studio creature feature. He approached it like a survival reconstruction. Real bears were used, real wilderness locations, helicopters, high-altitude terrain over 9,000 feet. This wasn't filmed on a soundstage pretending to be danger. The danger was real, controlled, but ever-present. The production itself mirrors the story it's telling. A small team exposed to the elements, working under extreme conditions to capture something authentic. That authenticity bleeds into the tone of the film. It doesn't rush. It doesn't joke. It doesn't try to make the audience comfortable. The script, written by Katrina Matheson and Tanner Bean, focuses heavily on atmosphere and tension rather than shock value. Dialogue feels grounded. Characters react like real people would when faced with the unknown. There's no superhero bravery here, just fear, hesitation, and moments of quiet panic that feel far more unsettling than any jump scare. The cast includes Charles Esten, Oded Fur, Breck Bassinger, Lauren Cole, Joel Johnston, and several others, but this isn't a star-driven project. It's character-driven. Every performance exists to support the environment, not overpower it. That choice makes the story feel smaller, more intimate, and paradoxically, more terrifying. One of the most striking aspects of Grizzly Night is how it treats the bears. They aren't villains. They aren't demons. They're animals acting on instinct in a landscape that humans entered without fully understanding the consequences. That distinction matters. It reframes the horror from something external to something deeply human. This was a turning point in American wildlife history. After that night in 1967, policies changed. Food storage regulations evolved. Public education about wildlife risks increased. The idea that nature could be controlled was quietly abandoned. Grizzly Night doesn't lecture about this, but the message is there, embedded in every scene. Now, let's be honest, animal horror films have a reputation. Many of them blur together, loud, forgettable, disposable. Grizzly Night doesn't look interested in joining that pile. It doesn't aim to be fun, it aims to be uncomfortable, and that choice will divide audiences. If you're expecting something chaotic and absurd, this isn't that. If you're looking for an experience that sits with you, that makes you uneasy long after the screen goes dark, this might hit harder than expected. Motion Picture Exchange showcased the film at Cannes, describing it as a visceral and unforgettable experience that lingers long after the credits roll. That's not marketing language you throw around lightly in this genre. It suggests confidence, or maybe a warning. Saban Films has officially set the release for January 30, 2026, launching directly on VOD platforms. That release strategy makes sense. This feels like a film meant to be discovered quietly, late at night, when the lights are off and the room is silent. Because this isn't just a movie about bears, it's about vulnerability, about stepping into environments that don't care about human intentions, about how quickly normalcy can collapse when systems fail. The night of August 12, 1967 didn't just take lives. It reshaped an entire philosophy about wilderness. Grizzly Night isn't trying to exploit that tragedy. It's trying to make you feel it. And if it succeeds, even partially, it won't be something you casually forget. I'll be watching closely when it arrives, because stories like this aren't meant to entertain us. They're meant to remind us. Stay alert, stay curious, and I'll see you in the next one.